Nehemiah, chapter 1. Nehemiah is one of the great characters of the Old Testament. And the story, as you probably know, is the story of him being called back from his position of some power, some influence in exile in Susa, to right back to Israel to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. Here's how it starts. In the month of Kislev, in the 20th year, presumably 20th year of the exile, while I was in the citadel of Susa, Hanani, one of my brothers, came from Judah with some other men, and I questioned them about the Jewish remnant that had survived the exile and also about Jerusalem. The guy is homesick. He's looking towards the home, the place that he loved. He's looking back. And then he hears from them the latest news. They said to me, "Those who survived the exile and are back in the province are in great trouble and disgrace. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down, and its gates have been burned with fire." When I heard these things, I sat down and wept. For some days I mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. And I want you to hear those words, trouble and disgrace. The walls have been broken, the gates have been burned. Jerusalem is in ruins, and it's really, for us, reading it today, it's a picture of a life that has lost its defense system. Do you hear that? It's unable to protect itself. It has no walls, and the gates have been burned with fire. And it is open to the incursions of any enemy. It's open to ruin. It's open to hurt. It's open to misery. And sometimes that can be a picture of where we live, can't it? But this book shows a way of recovery. That whatever situation I'm in, there's a solution. That wherever bondage I am under, there is a liberty. That whatever prison I have built myself into, stone by stone, there is a way out. And that's what this whole book is about. And the marvellous prayer that follows this reads like this: Lord, the God of heaven, the great and awesome God who keeps his covenant of love with those who love him and keep his commandments. Let your ear be attentive and your eyes open to hear the prayer your servant is praying before you day and night for your servants, the people of Israel. I confess the sins we Israelites, including myself and my father's family, have committed against you. We have acted very wickedly. We've not obeyed the commands, decrees, and laws you gave to your servant Moses. So the people are in trouble. They were feeling disgraced and diminished. The walls were broken down, the gates burned and useless. And he starts to look from the problem to the solution. And that's what I have to do. I have to turn away from this sort of inward looking of, why am I such a fool? Why do I do so? Why do I get myself into such a mess? Why do I paint myself into such a corner? So he's looking from that to the only possible solution, who is the God of heaven. So when I look back on my life, and I can see places where the walls have been, but have become broken down. Places where I don't have the ability to resist attacks. Maybe you fall victim to a habit and you just can't get out of that habit. I've spoken to people who have been trapped by gambling, which it doesn't trap me. I remember when I was 18, I was in this job and I was part of a syndicate. They insisted that I join this syndicate on a horse racing thing. And do you know what? I won. I came first. And the prize was £40. At the time, my weekly salary was £17. So I've got, it's like a month's salary in my hand. And do you know what? Even though I was so young, and even so that the prize was so great, I realised how addictive gambling was. And I pulled back from it straight away. So that doesn't kind of grab me. Something happened to me when I was so young. But there are other habits, aren't there? The habits of lying, habits of swearing, habits of evil thoughts, all kinds of stuff. And you get stuck into it. and you don't have the ability to resist it. It's like the wall has broken down, and it's almost impossible to get out of that situation. You know what I mean? And think of the meaning of the word gates, the form, the way of entry. Your gates can be fixed shut, that you don't let anything in, or they can be fixed open, so that you let everything in. And both of those ways describe something that is desperate. What does the walls are broken mean to you, do you think? So his response is to pray. He mourned, he fasted, he prayed, and his character is the keynote of the whole book. He's not treating this as something that he can just mull over. Like you go to a doctor and he says, oh, what's the wrong? So I've got a bullet hole here. Oh, let me put a plaster on it. You know, he's saying, no, it's more serious than that. So Nehemiah is looking to something that's much deeper. It can't just be glided over. Oh well, never mind. You know, like that song where it says, "Don't worry, be happy." Worry is not the answer, but a deep burden is the answer. This is what Nehemiah experienced. He experienced a burden, not just a little worry or a passing anxiety, but a deep burden. And he started to think it through and started to think what he should do. So how did he pray? He recognizes the character of God. First, he recognizes whom he's dealing with. You are the God of covenant. You are the God of love. You are the God who does what he says he will do. So he starts off with God's character, and then he moves on to his own character. And I'm a sinner. He confesses the sins of his people, his nation, and he includes himself in it. Personal sins and corporate sins. He reminds God of his promises, and he starts to ask for help. Here's my situation. How can I fix it? And then right at the end of the chapter, he says this wonderful little thing. Now, I was cupbearer to the king. Some kind of butler or wine taster. And there, we'll leave it for today. You have to start from where you are. Let me just say one thing. There is no situation where you can find yourself where there is no solution. Amen. May God bless you today.